DicePouch.com, premier custom dice bags for the tabletop gamer. Your inner geek wants out. Featured sponsor of Gamers Table.
Hello and welcome to Gamers Table, a discussion of tabletop role-playing games and other topics related to the gamer subculture. Be warned, this show may contain some explicit material that may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to Gamers Table. My name is Eric.
This is Mike.
This is Mark.
This is Shannon.
This is Dave. This is Jason.
And I'm Sean.
This episode we're going to talk about mercy versus murder.
Murder. You guys don't have
dun
mercy.
dun dun.
Mercy.
Yeah.
What we're really talking about is the act of killing in role-playing games. Because in almost every role-playing game that we play, there has to be combat.
Yeah.
If there's no combat component, then it sometimes just doesn't feel like we're playing a role-playing game, at least to us. And in doing so, in combat, people or creatures or whatever, they die. And what I want to talk about is the morality behind that.
Okay, I'll throw out the first question on this. Whoever can answer first. Murder or mercy, would your character, in a game system, would you wait till the creature or NPC attacked you first before you defend yourself, or is it always get the jump on, win initiative?
Depends on the character.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, because for me...
But does that ever factor in your head?
Well, it depends.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, then if you attack first, is it murder? Or murder constitutes a conscious choice to kill. We're talking about several layers of gray area. You can separate it out.
I think it depends on what you're doing. If you're raiding a base versus just deciding you're going to rob somebody, and are you going to beat the hell out of them, or are you just going to shank them, take their money, and let them bleed out?
There's so many different scenarios and factors that we can't necessarily account for here. All the variables. I mean, I think in your standard, let's say a dungeon crawl.
Okay.
If you're an adventuring party, you go into a dungeon, you expect to encounter monsters.
And kill them.
The problem is that's the monster's home. And this isn't
They could just be passing through.
Well, they could be. They're wandering monsters, I agree. But this isn't something that I considered years ago when we played. This is only something that's occurred to me in the last few years that I've been playing.
Right.
When you go into a dungeon, you're treading on someone else's ground. And you walk into a giant cave and there's a whole village worth of orcs underground. That's their home. And you're there to take their shit and kill them. It's...
Luckily,
instantly you are the bad guy.
Right, you're putting the whole population to the sword. You're not being merciful to anybody. You're killing women, children, babies.
But they're never described as
everybody.
women and babies.
Luckily,
They're just orcs.
the only character I have in Dungeons and Dragons is a murderous lunatic. So
we may have to take care of her.
Watch it, Boots.
But essentially what you're talking about is genocide.
Yeah.
I mean, that's murder on a greater scale.
Sure.
Ethnic cleansing.
Ethnic cleansing?
Yes.
They've added a word, like George Carlin says, they always add a word to make it sound less terrible.
Right. I might want to tweak that, though. I mean, your ethnic cleansing, you don't go into that dungeon saying, all right, let's go kill every orc in sight. You don't go in there with that intention. The intention there is kill or be killed.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to kill everything you can just to get what you want.
Well,
once you've got what you want, the killing stops, you leave.
Once Indiana Jones didn't chase after the Lost Ark hoping to find Nazis. He was hoping to find the Ark. The Nazis just happened to be there.
Hold on. I think we're talking about two totally different things. Nazis deserve killing.
Well, yeah.
Orcs in their home, I don't think necessarily deserve killing.
Okay, that's like Sunday. We were fighting a rust monster. The rust monster got what it wanted. It ate my armor. It ate my sword or axe. It was done. It turned and was walking away. It was done fighting.
Yep. And we were still trying to
and we
beat
were
the
still
crap out of it.
chasing it down, trying to beat the shit out of it because we wanted it dead because it did what it
ruined
did.
Your stuff.
But it was done. It wasn't harming us. I took no damage at all in any of the fighting of it. But it was.
It's the element of it'll come back to haunt you.
Right.
If you don't take care of it now, it'll come back to get you later.
There's also the experience involved.
Well,
True.
right.
That's the game part. Now, question 2 is, with Sean's rust monster example, this is not a sentient creature. Is it murder when it's not a creature that has
an intelligence?
Right.
That really gets to the is hunting murder.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because, if
If you're a hunter, your opinion doesn't count.
well, no, but if your intention was to eat that rust monster,
We skinned it. We tried.
I said we should.
Rust
it
monster
was so
tacos.
tough. It was,
we wanted the scales since my armor got ate by it. I had no armor.
It was so tough. I suggested it would make great armor, but
we're also putting a modern day,
Modern morality.
to a
Medieval setting.
as ridiculous as that is. That's what I want to talk about because that's the kind of stuff I like to think about when I play.
Well-
is if we've got a guy, he's surrendered, we know that he's a bad guy. Do we put him to the sword for the things that he did? Do we drag him in for justice? Do we hang him right there as a lynch mob? Or do we let him go? It's
In a D&D setting, that's an excellent place for the DM to bring in your alignment. Mm-hmm. If you're a paladin and you're lawful good and you've just caught this guy who's a rampaging highwayman or whatever, your vote's probably going to be, let's take him back into town. He deserves a trial and whatnot. If you're a lawful neutral mercenary, probably you're going to go along with the same thing. But if you're a true neutral mercenary, you could go either way.
Well, and I suppose if you're looking at that example, it depends on the crime and what all you've got going on that afternoon.
If he's walking around just stealing lollipops from babies, that's not really heinous. It's just really mean.
Right, but if he's taking out people up and down the highway, and you're on your way to another mission, you run across him. Do you take time out of your mission to drag him back to justice, or do you just cap him right there and keep moving forward?
string him up.
right. And I think it also depends on the history of the game that you play. If you've played a game where, okay, let's take him into justice, but, the local lord is corrupt and he was bribed and now this guy's walking
He's
the street
taking
again.
50% of this guy's action.
Right.
I think for me, it's going to depend on who's running the game.
Okay.
If it's Mike, I'm reasonably certain that at some point he's going to come back and haunt me. But it'll be years in the future.
Right.
Whereas if it's Eric, it'll be next week.
Right.
You let him go, so now he's trying to slit your throat in your sleep.
Right.
But let's go back to your orc example though. Let's say you go into a dungeon that's populated by orcs. You kill some of their warriors, and then the others say, "Just let us go. We won't harm you. We'll leave. Okay, take what you want. We'll leave." And you know that there's a village of people just down the hill.
You mean a village outside of the dungeon?
Outside of the dungeon.
Right.
That all right, you're displacing this population. Where are they going to go?
Well, again, it depends on the variables. It depends on the character I'm playing. If I'm playing let's say a chaotic good character, the chaotic good character is going to probably try to do the right thing by the people outside, and he's going to try and avoid there being a conflict later.
The quick sword is better than having to hunt down bandits from now on.
Now, if I'm playing a lawful good character, maybe I'll stick around in that town for a little while and make sure they're okay.
Okay.
If I'm playing a chaotic neutral character, I don't give a shit.
Okay.
That's not my problem.
Let's take it away from D&D unless you got another thing.
I think you and I are going in the same direction. I was going to say, let's take the exact same scenario, and instead of having a dungeon full of orcs, go to Shadowrun and make it a habstack full of orcs.
Full of orcs.
Well, then it's definitely murder.
Right.
That's the 21st. I mean, every Shadowrun that you're on, you're murdering people. Period.
Unless Johnson says no blood. You could theoretically be put on a mission where he says you don't.
Yeah,
It's
that's a totally different scenario, though.
Having not played Shadowrun, what is a habstack?
It's basically a lot of shitty apartments,
Think,
okay.
Projects.
like projects.
like the Cabrini Green, Chicago.
Projects for orcs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In Shadowrun, a lot of your metahumans are marginalized.
Yes.
Okay.
Racism has taken a completely more overt turn.
Yeah, instead of the KKK, now it's Humanist Poly Club.
Right.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Right.
Where were we at?
Well, we were talking about Shadowrun, and you're saying it's straight up murder, but you could inject that moral compass into your game and say that you use rubber bullets. You go out of your way not to kill any of the guards that are working there.
But even if you kill one guy, Lone Star shows up and you get arrested, they take you alive. Which that doesn't happen very often in our games. I can't think of any instance where any of us have ever been arrested. You're going to go to prison.
Right.
You're probably going to get the chair or whatever the equivalent of that would be in 2075 or whatever.
Lethal BTO.
So I guess the difference is the orcs in Shadowrun are just mutated humans who are still within your society, so the laws apply to them as the same as you.
Right.
So that's why it's murder. Whereas the orcs in D&D are outside the laws of human kingdoms.
Even more
so
marginalized.
killing them is nothing different than killing.
Right.
game animals.
I can't think of any instance I mean, we do play a lot of Greyhawk. I can't think of any instance in Greyhawk where an orc would be given equal rights to a human, an elf, a dwarf, etc.
Right.
Unless you're in their own, like if you're at the Horn Society or one of those places.
And they probably wouldn't
And there's
care
no
about
law
murder
there
anyway.
right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
survival of the fittest in those places.
Right.
But in essence, what we're talking about is, I mean, and this has been apparent all throughout human history, is the dehumanizing of your enemy.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Well,
It still
in
goes
Aces
on.
and Eights, is there Indian characters?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, so like take the orc analogy, turn them from orcs to Indians. Now what
Right.
now what are you looking at? Is it you're trying to get across their land? Is it murder or is it taking out people that don't apply to your society's laws?
I think in that instance, Dave, in a Wild West setting, I think it would depend on where you were at and who caught you first.
Oh yeah.
If you're
Okay.
let's say you're in Texas and you killed a whole village worth of Comanches, if the Comanches catch up to you, you're going to be tortured and then killed. If the Texas Rangers catch up to you, they're going to help you get back to town. They're going to buy you a beer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Well, I did some reading on the Texas Rangers not too long ago, and there's been several iterations of the Texas Rangers since their first inception. And the Texas Rangers, I think, originally were just a bunch of white guys going around killing Indians for safety.
Vilifying your enemy, I mean, that's one of the key components to war. But is it overly, liberal thinking to try and inject that into a fantasy game?
Yes.
Sure.
I think a lot of the fantasy games you're already allowed to play races that don't exist in reality, so it's already liberal in a way with different, like elven cultures, dwarven cultures.
Right.
So,
I think if you were trying to inject some realism into your game, if you were playing, let's say, a half-orc, most people sitting at the table playing their characters realistically should portray their characters as if they hate and despise the half-orc character. Unless given time for that half-orc character to prove that his value to the group, that's probably how you should play it. No, I don't think that's how we do it.
even half-elves are supposed to be reviled.
Especially by elves. And and halflings and dwarves are going to get looked down upon. And I think
That's because they're short.
And I think we all do kind of make fun of each other a little bit when we are playing those kinds. Like I'm playing a catfolk character now, and it wasn't 5 minutes into the game, and Shannon's calling him Boots.
Right.
So that's just.
I don't know
it's
what's
just
wrong
one of
with
those
calling
things.
a cat Boots.
Okay.
It's just a
You're a
perfect-
cat owner.
You know what? Your current character though in the Conan game is a savage as far as the rest of us is concerned.
Right.
But in that context though, we've all been treating you, I think, fairly on equal grounds.
I haven't been talking to him.
Okay, well, I
She's
speak his
lying.
language in the game.
I
so
haven't been
I've been
associating with
treating
them.
him.
She's
Either of
lying.
those two.
She's lying. She has been talking to me. She wants to sneak off with me.
All right, so going away from that, we kind of veered into racism, but so let's talk instead. Now let's go from murder. Let's talk about mercy. Let's talk about allowing your enemies to live.
I like it. I'm all for it.
Because he's going to bring them back on us.
I think you're more apt to be merciful at high levels than you are at low levels because I mean, come on, let's be realistic.
In the D&D setting,
Right. Sorry,
Right.
in D&D, I'm not. If I'm a 25th level fighter who has every feat that you could possibly want and deals out massive amounts of damage, I'm not worried about it. Go ahead, come back, try and take me again if you want to.
In our last Sea Princess campaign, there was a lot of mercy at low level.
Yeah.
And actually, mercy was kind of built into the code, the Pirates Code,
Sure.
Sea Code. And by giving mercy, you're expecting it back someday.
Right.
And that's what kind of
Talking about
keeps the whole thing
parlay?
together.
When you parlay,
Or just not killing everyone on a
asking
ship.
for quarter or giving quarter.
right.
There was a lot of mercy.
In our Mutants and Masterminds game, Sissy, she would frequently not kill. I'd ask Mike, did I kill him or did I just knock him out? Because I wanted it to be a conscious choice. The only person that she consciously killed was when she flamethrowered the tank and burned up the
That was an
guys.
accident.
Guys inside.
Sort of an accident. She was trying to kill Totenkopf.
Oh,
Here's a classic example of how the setting determines how you're going to play the game. In your run-of-the-mill Mutants and Masterminds game, where you're playing heroes, you're not going to kill anybody.
Well,
right?
it's because you're playing a
Right.
comic book, basically.
Right. But
Right.
all you had to do is say, we're going to take Mutants and Masterminds, we're going to put it in a war setting. Well, we could kill all the Nazis we want.
Right.
That's what we did.
That's exactly what we did.
Besides me.
Except for Shannon, because she's weird.
Well, I had just played Ivy Nightfall, who's like, I must kill everyone. And I was like, I'm going to play someone who's good and isn't going to kill everyone.
I know that when we were playing Mutants and Masterminds Golden Age, I wanted to kill every Nazi that we encountered.
You were going by those rules of war,
Right.
Geneva Convention or whatever.
Right.
So
yeah, we weren't.
Yeah, if they surrendered, I don't think you killed.
No, I don't think we capped anybody that had surrendered at all. But I don't really
the
recall
one-
a fight getting to where somebody could
I
surrender.
did.
The
I had a guy surrender.
the leprechaun tried, and